We've got the hottest table tennis rivalries in world sports.
I saw him at the after party dancing on stage, and he danced like someone who just won 4.5 million.
Let's talk about Jannik Sinner's doping ban.
I think they can learn a lot, to be honest, from darts.
I thought that was a highlight package of the three fights, and then maybe let the NBA players fight.
Bench opinions. Three idiots with amateur analysis.
Who's going to greet the people?
Playing a bit of pocket ping pong there.
It's a bit early for that. Anyway, hello and welcome to Bench Opinions. This is the leftovers episode. And
Best of the rest.
Best of the rest. And this is the one last time this week I'm going to explain what we've done. Instead of talking to you for an hour and 20, an hour and 30, and you have to wait for your favorite part or possibly hear your favorite part at the beginning and then listen to us talk about something you don't understand, we've now put the podcast into bite-sized pieces, 4 bite-sized pieces. The first is What a Week. Just us talking about life, generally complaining, being cynical, maybe a little bit funny. Second place is the rugby chat that I did with Klaus as well. We also have a football segment now, and this is the final segment of the week. And this is the leftovers, which is where we talk about everything else in the sporting world.
If you're really into badminton, this is for you.
Exactly.
We've got the hottest table tennis rivalries in world sports coming up right now. Chess.
Yeah.
Should we start with golf though?
We can start with golf. It's a good time to click like and subscribe. And let us know what you think about the new format. So, golf.
Let's start with the Live event. I think is it Adelaide?
Adelaide.
Yeah. You sent me a photo of the entertainment that they had put on, and it looked like a festival. It was huge.
Yeah, so they booked crazy entertainment for the Australia leg of Live Tour or Live Golf. And there was a guy called Dom Dollar. He's quite a famous Australian DJ. And he was telling a story about how the Saudis essentially said to him, hey, just design your own stage and we'll build it. So that's what he did. He played like his DJ set from like a giant golf ball. Very cool. But yeah, it just shows that money's no object. And it really looks like they're willing to throw money at anything to kind of get it to stick.
Australia really does match the Live format with the way they like to watch sport and with their energy. Very loud, very energetic, love to get after it on the alcohol front.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think in terms of buy-in, probably one of the better events.
Yeah.
I think particularly compared to Riyadh.
Yeah, where they just came from.
Exactly. Just because of the nature of the alcohol rules and also how you want to sell the tournament locally and with the penetration of golf. I think there's a lot of golf fans in Australia and a lot of really good Australian golfers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most lovable, likable golfer in the world made a hole-in-one on the watering hole, Patrick Reed.
Yeah.
And reminiscing scenes of the waste management where the whole course or the whole hole gets drenched in alcohol.
Interesting.
Interesting, I think.
It's very interesting with the Saudi context as well, which I find really funny.
I think if you're working for Liv currently, you're like the captain on the Titanic, because I think with Liv's numbers, with discussions that there is a merger happening and that there are discussions with Donald Trump really trying to get involved and make it happen, I don't see how Liv in its current format survives after that. It's more like the Saudis do get what they wanted initially, which was more buy-in in the PGA Tour.
That is what I have to give the Saudis props for. I mean, we spoke about Trojan horses with the South African Springbok deal happening. Liv is the ultimate Trojan horse.
Yeah. And
the Saudis put up a crazy front. They built this thing to scare the PGA into submission, and that's exactly what's happened.
It was shame poor Greg Norman.
Yeah, but Greg. Yeah.
They said, we believe in you, bro. They sent him into battle.
Yeah. He got ripped to shreds. Look, he didn't do himself any favors.
No.
But I think Maronk won that tournament, his first win in quite a while, $4.5 million.
On Greg Norman, he makes great golf shorts.
Oh, he does make good golf gear, actually. Yeah.
But that's where it ends.
Exactly. But yeah, Maronk winning. I do like him as a golfer. He's one of the few guys from the European Tour that went straight to Live. I think they win about $4 million, $4.5 million for a win. So I saw him at the after party dancing on stage, and he danced like someone who just won $4.5 million. He was loving life. So yeah,
good for him. PGA Tour, the Genesis, held at Torrey Pines this year because obviously the fires in LA made it impossible to host it at Riviera. Ludwig Oberg took it.
Love
Great result.
Love him. Yeah.
That makes it, I think, if you take the Canadian, what's his name? Nick Taylor, I think, who won, and Matsuyama out, that is 4 Europeans who have won this year on the PGA Tour, and only Harris English to win on the American side.
Wow.
But the top 10 is littered with other Americans, as is to be expected. Scotty Scheffler made a little bit of a comeback on the Sunday.
Yeah, I think he's an unstoppable force. I think he'll be on the winners' podium pretty soon. And I think also with us approaching Masters season, could see him peak at the perfect time. Rory looking good, I must say. He didn't have a great Sunday, but Rory looking pretty decent. And then also nice to see a couple of someone like Bhatia who came onto the scene last year, really just such a consistent, solid golfer, lefty as well, which is quite cool.
Yeah. And very cool story.
Exactly.
I think Rory had a tough weekend with his putting. Definitely dropped a lot of shots, and that sort of cost him. But as the new format rolls, they move straight into TGL on the Monday. So Ludwig Åberg, who just won the Genesis, was teeing it up for, do you call them the Bay? Yeah. The Bay. They had 3 matches on Monday, and you're starting to see the TGL format sort of take a little bit of momentum, because all of them were close games, and that's what makes the TGL, I think, exciting.
And there's a few chip-ins, a few things like that. Also, they've now sort of focused. I as you said, I think you're starting to see them kind of figure it out. Also, from a production point of view, they had the family members in a couple of the boxes. I think they can learn a lot, to be honest, from darts.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing to say, but I think they could learn a lot from darts, because obviously, the viewing experience is very one-dimensional in the sense that you're at a seat and you're watching something. Yeah. I think they could learn a lot from darts. I think it would be very cool.
That's a very good point.
And they kept on panning to the family in the box. The crowd got louder. I think there was a little bit of weird suspense for the first couple of episodes, and some fireworks on the putting green, which is quite cool.
Another thing about the TGL which I appreciate is that they're not scared to change rules during the season and just say, listen, I think they changed the hammer rule now. I know that in the previous game, I don't know if it was what's the American Ryder Cup captain now?
Keegan Bradley.
I don't know if I think he mentioned it and was just like, we can't get the hammer back because the other team won't throw it because they're in such a winning position. So for those who don't know, the hammer sort of doubles points on a hole for the team that throws it, or for both teams. So lays down a challenge to make one hole worth 2 points, so that if you're playing catch up, that makes it easier for you. Now I think both teams have 3 hammers to throw during the game. So they're not scared to change things on the fly, which for something that's this new, definitely worth it. Maybe they have to change the stadium that they're playing in from a setup point of view to make it more like an arena, like they do in the darts. Get a lot of people in there.
I think we can't forget that this whole concept, this is everything. They've done it all themselves. So there's no application of existing technology. The whole thing has been kind of set up, and I wouldn't be surprised if, as soon as it is set, that it does move to arenas and it is pliable in different parts of the world, and it kind of goes on tour, because it would make the most sense for them that it would possibly even follow the PGA Tour.
I mean, I think it would be amazing if you got. I mean, we're from Johannesburg, and we saw a few events at the Dome back in the day. But if that was, for example, the thing that the TGL would be there, or would come to Berlin or like Munich or Europe, definitely very cool. And it sort of makes me want to play some of those courses and try my hand at an event like that.
I struggle to buy into these weird fantasy course things personally. I think I'm a bit of like a purist in that sense. But
So you want when we play Super Mario Kart, you want it just to be down the A3.
Unter den Linden here, bro. Let me cruise. Although there is a track where you can go around the Brandenburg
There is a Berlin
Gate.
track, yeah.
No, I don't know. I think but this is all part of like the sales pitch that they have to eventually put together. I think right now my feelings towards the TGL are so much more positive than they were in the beginning. And I think that's a good sign in itself.
The only tough thing I think for us is the time that they play. I've not caught a live one yet.
Bit tricky, and it's also not at that point where I'm like, even though it's Rory against Tiger, I'm not going to stay up for something like that. Should we move on to maybe a little bit of cricket? Yeah, we got the Champions Trophy coming up. For everyone who doesn't really follow any cricket, the Champions Trophy is a little bit strange because it also comes out around every 4 years, but it's not the World Cup.
It's not the World Cup.
And it's essentially only reserved for the top 8 teams in the world.
Yes.
And it's still very prestigious. Whoever wins it is considered a very good cricket team. And it's for South Africa, for example, any trophy would do at the moment. But a controversy around it in the sense that it's in Pakistan for the first time in a long time. Well, Pakistan for very many years were playing all their home games out of the UAE because of security concerns.
Which do you remember which tour it started on that bus was shot at? Was it Sri Lanka or West Indies that were touring?
For some reason, I thought it was in New Zealand, but I don't know. But yeah, there was a sort of terrorist attack on one of the team buses, and then that kind of kicked off where they were sent into the wilderness.
Maybe it was New Zealand, could be.
But they're back now, and everyone's quite happy about that. Which except India.
Except India.
Who have refused to play any games inside Pakistan. So all of India's group games, or actually any of the games India plays in, this shows you the control of the BCCI. All of the games that they play in will be hosted in Dubai.
Having watched this documentary on the India-Pakistan rivalry, the first tour that they did back, sort of the friendship tour that they did in the early 2000s, when there was some unrest between the two countries, sort of gives you a peek behind the curtain of how much security they had to put in place to ensure that the Indian team was safe. Whether that be warranted or unwarranted, I think it's difficult to comment because I'm not too sure. But I don't know if Pakistan or India could have guaranteed that during a tournament because Pakistan has to ensure the safety of all teams. I don't know if the resources were there to also ensure that the Indian team was safe. I don't know what relations are like. I know that the India-Pakistan fans seem to hate each other.
Yeah.
Have you seen that video of the teacher that's on stage and pulls the kids up and says, "What are you going to do for Pakistan?" And the one dude's like,
"I'm going to be in the Air Force and I'm going to shoot them down.
I'm going to destroy the whole of India for Pakistan."
Yeah.
So
I guess it's deep rooted. Let's put it that way. So look, at the end of the day, they got to do what they got to do, and I suppose India want to compete, and for global cricket, it's better if they do, and if UAE is an option, then great. I think...
and if Pakistan fans get to see some live cricket again, and India can't be there and still are in the tournament, then this seems like the best possible option.
Fair enough. And I think rather get cricket back to Pakistan and reintegrate them.
Yeah.
They also very hastily built some stadiums for themselves for the tournament as well.
I never, being from South Africa and seeing how the world sort of commented on the 2010 World Cup with the scrutiny and with if everything was going to be ready, I never know how much to buy into that beforehand, because you see some pictures on Twitter about the stadiums in Pakistan and you're like, Jesus Christ, this is never going to be ready.
We played a couple of warm-up games in Karachi. We didn't play very well, but we played a couple of warm-up games.
Not me and you, the Proteas.
No, the Proteas. Karachi, and you can see that stadium was recently completed, like, because everything around it is like a construction site. But look, at the end of the day, I think it is right. I mean, headlines, you're trying to sell headlines, and if you can say, take pictures from 3 weeks or 4 weeks earlier or 4 months earlier and go, the stadiums aren't ready to get some clicks, I guess you're going to do it, particularly because a lot of the narrative around cricket and the digital space is controlled out through Indian eyes.
Yeah.
I think you can't forget that either. But yeah, I don't know. I think my favorites for the tournament, honestly, are New Zealand, because Australia have so many injuries. England are in a little bit of disarray. And I think, New Zealand look really good, and they've just got such a stacked lineup.
Yeah. And you can never take India out of the conversation. No. In a tournament like this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think South Africa aren't really in talks of favorites, but you never know. I think you correctly said in a conversation with me once, our real worry is our bowling lineup if Rabada isn't playing.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a lot of issues. We've also got the couple spinners we do have don't seem to be on form. Shamsi's dropped off completely. And in the subcontinent, in Pakistan, you're going to need 1 or 2 spinners that are taking wickets. Otherwise, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. And I just don't see us winning a tournament like that purely through batting firepower. I just don't see it. I think the pitches are going to be too good. Yeah, but
nice to have some competitive cricket on again. I do love it. let's talk about Jannik Sinner's doping ban.
Yeah.
He's accepted a doping ban. I think it's 6 months. Was
3
it?
months.
3 months.
Yeah. Very interesting story in the sense that a lot of people in the tennis world are very upset about it.
Yeah.
Because they say that if you look at the WADA guidelines, he should actually be banned for 2 years. But there's been this whole sort of, he's not stripped of any titles, for example. He's not, and I think that upsets a lot of people because there's definitely been other people like a Sharapova, for example, who got treated very differently.
They threw the book at her, yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know what the reasons would be that they would be doing it. I don't know if it's to protect tennis in a time where tennis is under a little bit of attack from paddle and pickleball. But yeah, apparently what happened is it's all come out now in the paperwork. There was steroid cream that was being used by the physiotherapist, and he contaminated. He used too much of it, and it contaminated Sinner's blood. I think it was his blood that was then drawn. So,
I think people are also a little bit upset about the timing of it. I saw someone reference it to the footballing world and say this is like receiving a ban that only applies to your summer break.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he's coming back, I think, a week before the Rome Open, which is his country's Open.
Yeah.
And then I think he's going to be in time to play the French Open.
He misses no Grand Slams. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that will probably add even more insult to injury because people do. You can, even if it was an accident, a punishment at least make him miss a major.
Yeah, I think also the big conversation that's happened is it seems like there was some sort of like exchange, like deal negotiation between his team and the doping authority.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a dynamic that should exist.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it should be relatively clear. These are the guidelines. This is what you've been found guilty for. This is your punishment. And it seems like there was quite a lot of back and forth between the tennis world, WADA, and him to kind of come to an agreement. And I don't know, I don't know if punitive measures should be dealt with that way. But again, I honestly think it's a little bit of saving face by the tennis world. I do think there's alarm bells ringing with paddle and pickleball.
I don't know what viewership numbers for tennis is like. I know that they really struggle to get anyone excited about normal season tennis. The Grand Slams are really what pulls tennis through.
Yeah. I've read that they used to have we still have the ATP 1000 series, so in Indian Wells and some of the big tournaments, and essentially the numbers have just gone off a cliff face.
Yeah, because. And that, then to take take the marquee player out of your season could be a political move. Maybe last thing to get onto on this best of the rest one is some ice hockey.
Ah, yes. It's for our Canadian friends.
So, if I understand this correctly, during the All-Star break, the 4 countries, Sweden, Finland, Canada and the USA play a 4 nations series.
Yeah.
And Canada played the USA in Canada, and it kicked off.
Yeah. I think within 9 seconds there were 3 fights on the ice.
I thought that was a highlight package of the 3 fights, and then like
you were just watching the full game replay.
Yeah, and the referees seem to have loved it. I think there's like 2 guys on the US team they call the Bash Brothers. They were big beforehand saying they're going to disrupt. And to the shock of the world, the Canadian fans booed the national anthem of the USA beforehand. People on Twitter were very upset. I think if you view it in the political context of the US, Donald Trump, and Canada right now, you definitely see where it came from. And it sparked a sort of debate online whether there is any acceptance or there should be any scenario where booing a opposition anthem is okay. Wondering what your thoughts was on that, or whether that should be kept sacred.
I think I believe that sport and politics should try and be kept separate. And I think booing the what are you gaining from that? And also the players on the ice and American ice hockey fans as a whole are not responsible for whatever is going on a political level.
Yeah.
So I think mutual respect is important. I think it would have been cooler if the Canadians didn't boo the anthem and the players decided to settle it only on the ice.
Yeah.
And
you probably walk away with much more if you're the bigger man or the bigger person and your team wins, and you unfurl a banner at the end.
Exactly. And you just go, scoreboard. Scoreboard. No,
Yeah.
I think, but fighting for me, I don't know how you feel about it. It's the most fucking bizarre thing for me that there's a sport where literally it's like part of the
Insane.
makeup of a game that like gloves come off and guys just start beating the shit
And they
out
get
of each other.
everyone watches. They get to fight each other until they hit the ice.
It's also for me only it doesn't surprise me that it's at its most prominent in North America. Just saying.
Well, get him, man. Yeah.
Fuck him up.
It does get a lot of viewership numbers, and the way those videos were shared on social media definitely did a lot for hockey. If you compare that to basketball, for example, which also had its All-Star break currently, they're sort of really struggling to find the identity of what their All-Star weekend should be, just because it doesn't mean anything for the league. And it's they have the slam dunk contest that no one participates in anymore. That McClung guy has won it the last 3 years, and he's the only one who really rocks up and does something
It's the
anymore.
only reason he still has an NBA contract.
Yeah, it's not like the Vince Carter days of old.
Yeah.
And the All-Star game is sort of just no one defends. It's just like no one wants to get injured. It's just, rather have something like this. Maybe let the NBA players fight.
Yeah. Don't know about that.
I think in every sport there should
with
be.
some of where some of these NBA players grow up, I don't know if we want to start fighting.
Maybe
Because they've got a cousin who's going to bring a gun to the fight, and it's going to be a problem.
Maybe with the TGL sort of looking for new things to adopt, taking some stuff from darts. Maybe they take some stuff from ice hockey as well.
Just drop the clubs.
You
and
just
off
see
we
Colin
go.
Morikawa and Hideki Matsuyama just absolutely going at it on the first tee.
Why did you have to go for Asian on Asian violence? Is that really what we had to go for?
Well, listen.
I mean, look, I think I'd love to watch Patrick Cantley try and fight someone.
Yeah, Patrick Cantley versus
Patrick Reed. That would be good.
I think it would be definitely would be better than a lot of these celebrity boxing matches or influencer boxing matches you see now.
It's sad that a lot of things have to happen for clicks, but I think that's the reality of it now. And with sport being so competitive and all these sports, like I was saying to Klaus in one of the episodes yesterday, that the NBA have now announced that they're going to try and start their own league in Europe for basketball.
Right.
So, for example, they want to come into Berlin, form a new team outside of Alba Berlin,
Yes.
build their own arena, and essentially take on the EuroLeague basketball.
Oh.
Which could be a massive disruptor. So those kind of things are happening all around the world, and you've got these big players like Dubai have now bought into EuroLeague, so they're trying to wrestle control of the game, and I think that's where ratings are everything, because that's your leverage.
Yeah.
Not when you live, because they had other leverage. They had Greg Norman, but yeah, I guess it's cool though to see that sports are trying to innovate.
Yeah.
To survive, and that's what I think you'll see in tennis as well.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about a thing that survives on a lot of clicks, please like, share, and subscribe.
For more impressive segues like that. This is our first week of our 4 different formats. You've just watched The Leftovers, and let us know what you think about it.
If you can get through, let's say, Tuesday to Friday, which is how we're going to launch these things, and listen to everyone, I will be seriously impressed.
Yeah, I'll give you sweets. You will get sweets.
Yeah, so let us know if you like the new segments. If you don't, tough cookies,
Exactly.
because this is how it works.
Au revoir, as they say.
Thank you, toodaloo.